Because Alex will come soon, and then we'll go all together and talk about it. All right?
Talk about hop.
All right, good. Yeah, okay. Here. Let's try to get 2 pages in before Alex comes. All right. Mrs. Radley ran screaming into the street.
Mr. Radley.
Mrs.
Radley ran screaming into the street.
That Arthur was killing them all. But when the sheriff arrived, he found Boo still sitting in the living room.
Living room.
Cutting up the Tribune.
They're cutting up the
Tribune.
Tribune.
What's a Tribune? It's a newspaper. Okay. He was 33 years old then.
He was 33 years old then.
Yeah. Miss Stephanie said. Old Mr. Radley said, "No, Radley."
She said, old
Mr.
Radley said, no, Radley was going to
asylum. When it was suggested that a season in Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa's in Alabama also, okay?
Alabama River?
No, just Tuscaloosa, okay? That's where the University of Alabama is. Say Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Might be helpful to Boo. What's Boo's last name?
Radley.
Good. Boo Radley.
Wait. Mrs.
Yeah,
Boo,
Miss. No.
Miss.
No, Mrs. is another, okay? All right, anyway. The sheriff hadn't the heart. To put him in jail. Alongside Negroes. So Boo was locked in the courthouse basement. So Boo
was locked in the courthouse
basement. Good job.
Remember courthouse house? It's a bathroom.
Yeah, it is. You do remember. Boo's transition from the basement to back home.
Boo's transition from the
Say it. Basement
to black home
was nebulous. Remember, nebulous means cloudy, unclear. Okay?
Cloudy means foggy.
Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. Boo's transition from the basement to back home was nebulous.
Boo's transition from the basement to black home was nebulous.
One more time. Boo's transition from the basement to back home was nebulous.
Boo's transition from the basement to back home was nebulous.
In Jem's memory. Miss Stephanie Crawford said some of the town council told Mr. Radley that if he didn't take Boo back, Boo would die of mold from the damp.
Boo would die from the
Dew of mold.
Dew of mold.
Oh, I'm sorry. Boo would die of mold
Boo would die of mold
from the damp.
from the day.
Besides,
Besides,
I'm in there one time, so I'll be there right now. Okay? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
who was that?
Kelly Moore. I need 2 gallons of Dexco to be finished.
Cool. Good.
They have it in stock. I gotta go get it.
Here.
how come we have?
Text me the receipt
Yeah,
before you leave
awesome.
the store. All right. Don't smoke.
I didn't smoke.
Why is that lighter in your hand?
It's not a lighter.
Okay. But don't smoke. And yes, you did smoke. Leaving the coffee shop. Don't lie either,
Oh, I
okay?
did. Over there I did.
Yeah.
I did smoke.
Yeah. Don't say you didn't smoke, okay? Nobody knew what form of intimidation.
Nobody knew
What
what from
form?
a form of intimidation.
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 Nobody knew what form of intimidation.
Nobody knew. No, nobody knew what
Form.
form of intimidation.
Intimidation. See, that's no BL. It's intimidation.
Intimidation. Mr. Ratley
Employed
employed
to keep Boo out of sight.
to keep Boo out of sight.
But Jem figured that Mr. Radley,
But Jem figured Mr. Ratley
that
that Mr. Ratley
kept him chained to the bed most of the time.
kept him chained to most of the bed.
No, kept him chained
Kept him chained.
to the, not chains, it's chained.
Chained.
See, there's a ED, chained.
Chained
To the bed
to the bed
most of the time.
most of the time. I just said,
Said,
I just said, not,
no,
no, it
wasn't
wasn't that
sort
sort
of thing.
or of thing.
That there were other ways of making people into ghosts. That there were other ways of making people into ghosts.
That
There.
there were other ways of making people into
Ghosts.
ghosts.
Again.
That there were
Other
other
ways
ways of
making.
people into ghosts.
There's S. Ghosts.
Ghosts.
Okay, do it again.
That there were other
Start over.
that there were other ways of making people into ghosts.
Good job. Pick up that paper, please. Good. Okay. My memory came alive to see Mrs. Radley.
My memory came alive to see Mr. Ratley. Mrs. Ratley.
Occasionally open the front door.
Occasionally open the front door.
Walk to the edge of the porch.
Walk to the edge of the porch.
And pour water on the cannas.
And pour water on the cannas.
On her cannas. I said it wrong.
On her cannas.
But every day, Jem and I would see Mr. Radley walking to and from town. But every day, Jem and I, pay attention, but every day, Jem and I would see Mr. Radley walking to and from town.
But
Every day.
every day, Jem and I would see Mr. Radley walking to and town from town. He was a thin,
leathery
man with
colorless eyes.
So colorless,
They did not reflect light.
they did not reflect light.
His cheekbones were sharp,
His cheekbones were sharp,
and his mouth was wide,
and his mouth was wide,
with a thin upper lip
with a thin upper lip
and a full lower lip.
and a full lower lip.
Mrs. Stephanie Crawford
Mrs. Stephanie Crawford
said
he was so
upright.
He took
Took
the word
Good job.
word of God as his only law, and we believed her.
Because Mr. Radley's
Mr. Radley
posture
was
ramrod straight.
straight.
Is this good posture?
No.
Is this ramrod posture?
Yeah.
Show me ramrod posture. Show me bad posture. Look, curl your back. Okay, good. All right, good. He never spoke to us.
He never spoke to us.
When he passed, we look at the ground and say,
When he passed,
we
we would look at
the ground.
the ground and say,
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And he would cough in reply.
And he would cough and reply.
In reply. Try again. And he would cough in reply.
And he would cough and reply.
Mr. Radley's elder son lived in Pensacola.
Mr. Radley's
Elder son
elder son
lived
in
Pensacola.
Pensacola? Is it Pennsylvania?
No, it's Pensacola, Florida, okay? He came home at Christmas.
He came at home at Christmas.
And he was one of the few persons we ever saw. And he was one of the few persons we ever saw.
And he was the only
one of
the
few
persons we
ever saw enter or leave the place. From the day Mr. Radley took Arthur home,
From the day Mr. Radley took
Arthur home, people said the house died.
People said the house died?
Mm-hmm. He took his time. Oh, wait. But there came a day when Atticus told us.
But there came a day when Atticus told us
he'd wear us out.
He will wear us.
He'd wear us out.
He'd wear us out.
If we made any noise
in
the yard and commissioned
any commission
Calpurnia to serve in his absence. If she heard a sound out of us. If she heard a sound out of us.
If she heard the sound out of us.
a sound out of us.
a sound out of us.
Mr. Radley was dying.
Mr. Radley was dying.
He took his time about it.
He took his time about it.
Wooden sawhorses.
When
Horses
saw horses
block the road
block the road
at each end
at each end
of the Radley lot.
of the Radley lot.
Straw was put down on the sidewalk.
Straw was put down on the sidewalk.
Traffic was diverted to the back street.
Traffic was diverted to the back street.
Dr. Reynolds parked his car
Dr. Reynolds parked his car
in front of our house
in front of our house
and walked to the Radleys every time he called.
and walked to the Radleys every time he called.
Jem and I crept around the yard.
Jim and I crept around the yard
For days.
for 4 days.
At last the sawhorses were taken away.
At
Last.
last, the sawhorses
Were.
were taken away.
And we stood watching from the front porch.
And we stood around.
Okay, stop. And we stood watching from the front porch.
watching from the front porch
When Mr. Radley made his final journey past our house.
when Mr. Radley
Made his final journey past our house. There goes the meanest man ever.
There goes the meanest man ever.
God blew breath into.
God blew breath
No,
and
look at me. Breath.
breath.
Yeah, say bread.
Breath?
Bread.
Breath.
Say breath.
Breath.
Good. Okay. There goes the meanest man God ever blew breath into.
There goes the meanest man ever God blew
Breath.
breath into.
Yeah. Murmured Calpurnia.
Remember Calpurnia?
Calpurnia, this is murmuring. Okay? This is speaking clearly. I don't think you should do that. Okay? Okay. We looked at her in surprise.
We looked at her in surprise.
For Calpurnia rarely commented on the way of white people.
For Calpurnia rarely
Commented
commented white people
on the ways
on the ways
of
white people.
the neighborhood thought
The neighborhood thought
when Mr. Radley went under Boo
when Mr. Radley went under Boo
would come out.
would come out.
But it had another thing.
But it had another thing
Coming.
Boo.
Boo's
Boo's.
elder brother returned from Pensacola.
Other brother returned from
Pensacola.
Pensacola.
And he took Mr. Radley's place.
And he took Mr. Radley's place.
The only difference between him
The only difference between him
and his father was their ages.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
There. You stopped at there.
Point?
There. No, their point.
Oh, yeah.
There. Their ages.
Okay, Jem said Mr. Nathan Radley.
Jem said
Mr.
Nathan and Radley
Bought cotton, too.
bought cotton too. Bought cotton. cotton.
Mr. Nathan would speak to us.
Mr. Nathan would speak to us.
However, when we said good morning,
However, we say good morning.
when we said good morning,
When we said good morning.
And sometimes we saw him
And sometimes we saw him
coming from town with a magazine in his hand.
coming down,
Coming from town.
coming from down,
Coming from town.
coming from town.
Good job. Town. See? Town. Town. With
With
a magazine in his hand.
a magazine in his hand.
The more we told Dill
The more we told Dill
about the Radleys,
about the Radleys,
the more he wanted to know. The more he wanted to know.
the more he wanted to know.
The longer he would stand,
The longer he would stand,
hugging
hugging
the light pole
the light pole
on the corner.
on the corner,
The more he would wonder.
the more he would wonder.
Hey, Alex. Ooh. Did you see?
It's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, they got the middle part.
Yeah. See, you're starting this. What book are you reading? Can you tell Alex?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
It's a good book.
Here, hold it.
It's a good book.
Yeah. So they went to go get the stain. Do you
No.
want to go look around with it? They're going to stain it this color.
No.
Oh, let me get my phone, turn my phone off. Yeah. Do you want to